Well, good afternoon and welcome to a new program. It's called Poetry is Alive and Well. And now I'm here with my poetry expert. She's an expert on words, as she likes to call it. Annie Pelleschi, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Thank you for coming in.
Thank you for calling me an expert.
Well, I think so. Compared to any research that I could do, you're definitely an expert.
Okay.
But now you've been to Boston recently, haven't you?
Yes, up to the North Shore.
Right.
Yeah.
So tell me all about why you went and who you went with and what you did there.
Okay, I'm part of a local poetry group called Talisman, and we meet in Wine Street, where else?
Yeah, of course.
And we've just published a book.
Right.
An anthology, and it's called 10 Swansea Writers. And contacts over in Boston heard about it and invited us to launch the book over there.
Brill.
So 4 of us went over as ambassadors for the book.
Okay, so who were these 4 people?
There was Michael Bryant, who's a young GP who does voluntary work in Sierra Leone, lately for the Ebola outbreak.
Right.
There's Alice Sullivan, who's a mother of 3 gorgeous children who lives in Swansea. And there's David Churchill, who is the host of Talisman Poetry. And myself, I tagged along for good measure.
Ah, brilliant. Because now talking of the Talisman, you've compiled a book, haven't you?
Yes.
Right, so tell me a little bit about the book before we go on about the Boston thing.
Okay. We published it here in April, May this year.
Yeah.
And it's been received well.
Good.
We wanted to do it to give people who haven't been published a chance to be published.
Oh, okay. That's good.
So we've set up a publishing arm to the group.
Okay.
From that, then we invited people to come in to the first book.
Right. So how did you meet these people so they were included in the book? How did you know of them?
Well, we knew of them because Swansea is a small town, really. It's many villages, isn't it?
Yes.
And the poetry scene is great. It's vibrant here. So we see each other quite regularly in any case, but most of them came to Talisman, to the poetry group there.
Right, so they were quite active as poets, as writers beforehand.
Much so. Very much so.
Okay, right. So where does this book tie into the Boston trip?
Because of my connection with the Dylan Thomas birthplace, I've made many contacts throughout the world, and I had told people I knew in Boston, poets that I knew in Boston, about the book, asked them to review it, and they invited us for a launch.
Wow.
So off we went.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah.
Had you ever been to Boston before?
Never.
No?
Never. It's Boston, you know.
Boston?
Boston.
What did you make of it?
Lovely.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I mean, it's New England, and in autumn, it couldn't be better.
Oh, yeah.
The colours.
That part of the world with the, in the fall, as they say. Oh.
That's right. Well, we didn't fall.
You didn't?
We staggered a bit, but we didn't fall.
How does that not surprise me? So did they look after you while you were there? Did they have an itinerary for you? What did you do?
Yeah, they had an itinerary. And quite honestly, in a downscale of Dylan Thomas's tour of America, I understood how you must have felt, because they really were working us.
Oh, right, okay.
You know, just as Dylan was worked.
Yeah.
In fact, when we were over there, I had to say to the organiser over there, look, we haven't been here before. Can we see something as well? You know, oh, Annie, you know, it's an itinerary, Annie. But we squeezed in Boston tours and things like that.
They thought
thankfully.
Oh, good, yes, while you're there, you know, because they probably thought, well, it's a working holiday, and they but oh, good. Now, you mentioned Dylan Thomas, because he died in New York, didn't he?
Yes.
Really early at 39, didn't he?
He was just turned 39.
Had he?
Yeah.
That's right, because his birthday is in, like you said, October. And then he he died then in November the 9th, wasn't it?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. He was born on October the 27th. So he didn't celebrate his 27th, his 39th birthday on the 27th, and he died then on November 9.
So what was he doing in New York?
It was part of his 4th trip to America. He was ill before he went, He needed the money. He was going to meet Stravinsky, the whole lot over there. But he was put on a grueling tour. I mean, he really was. It's been coined now that he was the rock star poet. And in fact, he was. Thousands went to see him. But it was a grueling tour. And he went to New York. It was overcome with air pollution when he went there. And of course, he was a profoundly bad asthmatic.
Oh, right.
And his lifestyle didn't help either.
Yes, because he'd acquired a reputation, hadn't he, as a roistering, drunken and doomed poet, didn't he?
He did. Half of that myth he created himself.
Right.
When he was trying to get an identity. I mean, he was a shy, emotionally insecure man who never really grew up.
Now, I was talking to Gaynor from down the bay quite recently, and she said that there could have been some undiagnosed diabetes as well. Is that true?
That's true, yeah. Certainly didn't have the metabolism for drinking, and he was a beer drinker.
Ah, okay.
But as a court celebre, he'd be drinking whiskey or bourbon in the States, of course.
Right. And then in those days, without the awareness, with the diabetes and everything, then, you know, everybody is different. And with that, well, disease as well, you can't really take it. That's a shame, isn't it?
Tragedy, really, a tragedy. And it's one that's being repeated, not with just drink, but with drugs, with other pop stars, rock stars, or, it's being repeated.
So many dying, unfortunately, far too young. It was like that one from Glee, 31. God, I forget his name now, but the lead in Glee. I don't know if you remember, about 2 years ago.
But Whitney Houston, you know, the whole lot. James Dean, if you want to go back.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly,
so many of them because they're products.
Yeah.
They're seen as products and they can't cope with the success under pressure.
Do you think Dylan Thomas was appreciated in his own lifetime?
Yes, in America.
In America only?
Yes. In London, certain groups did appreciate what this boy was doing.
Right.
But America, he took by storm.
I suppose it wasn't until he started maybe making a name for himself in radio that maybe people in this country and in Wales and in Britain started to appreciate him, wasn't it?
Well, he was known as the voice of radio, really.
Right.
You know? And it was in Swansea, of course, that he made that voice. He copied his father, you know, who was a very articulate man. And he practiced in the bathroom of 5 Cumdonkin Drive to get his voice, you know, as it should be. So he was definitely the voice of radio. He worked with Richard Burton, so that there was an alliance there.
Right.
But really, it was America that made him.
Wow.
And if you go over to the East Coast especially, they can quote him. They can quote his short stories.
Wow, wow.
You know?
Do you think they appreciate him more in America even now than over here?
Yes.
Yeah? Wow.
Yes. He's coming through a bit because we've had the centenary, of course.
Yes.
Which has raised the awareness.
It has.
You know? But he's not only a poet, he's a man who loved words.
Right, yeah. Now say a little bit more about that because poetry to you is words. So what do you mean by that?
Well, he was a guy that just said that he loved the colour of words. He loved the colour words brought him.
Yeah.
And that the first poetry he heard were nursery rhymes. He didn't understand the words, but he loved the colour they gave him. And if you read the short stories of Dylan, they're poetic prose. And he's freer there.
Do you think he's talking about the sounds as well?
Yes.
Maybe from not understanding at an early age?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely. And if you're a Welsh speaker, aren't you?
I am, yeah.
Well, I heard the Archdruid of the Gorsedd read one of Dylan's poems in Welsh.
Yeah.
A poem I knew, but when I heard it in Welsh, I then understood what Dylan was on about by just listening to the rhythm and the sound.
Wow.
You know?
So was it translated? I'm assuming that Dylan Thomas wrote it in English and then it was translated into Welsh.
Yes.
Because now his parents, they spoke Welsh, didn't they? But they didn't pass the language on, I don't think.
No, that's.
I mean, it was quite common in those days, I think, where it was considered if you wanted to get on in the world, English was the spoken language.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Although Dylan could understand Welsh, but
Right.
he'd answer in English.
Right, right. Okay, yeah, I know lots of people like that actually, of a certain age as well. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, so they know all about Dylan Thomas in America then,
Yeah, but they still need reminding.
Of course, yeah, yeah.
And we could remind them when we were over there of the birth of this boy of Swansea.
Right, yeah, okay. Now then, we'll speak more about this after the break, but we just need to go to a commercial break now. Thank you, Annie, and we'll see you in 2 or 3 minutes. Stay with us. Well, hello and welcome back to Poetry is Alive and Well, and I've still got the wonderful company of Annie Pelleschi. Thank you for staying with me, Annie.
You're welcome.
Now then, just to let the viewers know, by the way, we're going to make this a regular thing. So Annie will be coming in and focusing on this book that that Annie's mentioned earlier, 10 Swansea Writers. So yeah, now then, we've got some pictures actually of you out in Boston.
All right.
So we'll just show the viewers those pictures and then you can maybe talk us through those if that's all right. Now, so where are you there? Which of the readings is this?
This is in the Whittier house. He was a poet.
Right. Is that him
Whittier.
there, behind?
Behind,
Yeah.
yes. And he was a reformist. And the house really is very similar to what we did in Dylan's house here.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, so people can go in and visit and feel
Yeah.
the man then.
Right. Now, is that the one in Cumdonkin?
Cumdonkin, number 5 Cumdonkin Drive.
Is that still open to the public now?
Yeah, I believe so. I think you can go on their website
Okay.
and have a house tour. You could stay there.
Right.
know?
What about the boathouse in Larne?
The boathouse is open. That is owned by Carmarthen Council.
Right. Okay.
Serves great coffee.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Is a museum. You can see the writing shed where Dylan used to sit and look over his heron-priested shore. You know, it's a lovely, lovely, picturesque place.
So wasn't that his family home there? Was it?
It was his last home.
Right. With his wife and children?
Yes, yeah.
Because they had quite a turbulent relationship, marriage, didn't they?
Very much so. Very
Right.
much so. It was apparently love at first sight.
Right.
2 young, beautiful people. But his wife, Kathleen, believed, in fairness to her, that she was going to be married to a poet who had money. They both wanted to be bohemian. Well,
Right.
of course, poetry didn't make money then, doesn't make much now. So her life was hard, really.
Yeah. I suppose it's like anybody in the creative industry starting out. Did I say industry? I meant industry.
Well, whatever you said, I understood.
Anyway.
Lost in translation.
I'm sure I said that right then. Industry. Yeah, so if we move on to the next photo we've got here.
Okay.
So is this in Boston or is that a bit further up the coast? What are you doing there?
Well, it was all on the north shore of Boston, and this place was called Rockport, and it was near Gloucester. Because, of course, the weird thing about going over to Boston is it's in New England. And so you've got sort of Birmingham next to Reading, and it's all wrong.
Or Birmingham, as they call it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like you said, so the geography is
The
all wrong
geography's
there.
all wrong, do you know what I mean? And with the people in this photo now,
who are they?
the person on the right-hand side is Marcy Nolan. She's a drama and English literature lecturer from New York State.
Right.
And she came up to see us performing. The person in the middle is the adorable Michael Bryant, the doctor who goes in over
the one who
to
went to
Sierra
Sierra
Leone.
Leone. Right, okay.
And the old hag on the left is me.
Oh, stop it.
Well, why not?
Oh.
And the one in the previous photo
Yes.
was the person on the left-hand side was Bonnie Roberts, and she's a Pulitzer Prize winner poet.
Oh,
and she came.
Oh, there we
that's
are. We've got
Bonnie
it
on
up
the
again.
left.
Okay, and that's Michael again.
And I won't tell you what I'm doing to Michael Bryant.
I don't want to know, I don't
No.
think. Is that the same location in Rockport
Yes,
there?
it
Right,
is,
okay.
yeah.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
I mean, beautiful time of year that you went, wasn't it? Because it was around Dylan Thomas's birthday,
That's
wasn't
right,
it?
that's right.
So, yeah.
It
Well,
was beautiful colours, the vibrancy of the colours. The red leaves were just about to fall.
oh, wow.
They're the first to fall.
Ah, okay.
The red goes first, then the orange, and the yellow.
Oh, wow.
So I sound as if I know what I'm talking about.
Well, you're an education to me today, honestly. Didn't you say there was a Swansea as well in
I
the
believe
state
it
of...
is in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
But what was great for me was we went to a place called Grolier's Poetry Bookshop.
Right.
It's the oldest bookshop in America.
Oh, wow.
And Ivani, the man who runs it, is somebody, when I walked in, I knew,
Right.
but I didn't know how I could know anybody from Cambridge, which is in Boston.
Oh, right. Well, the world is very small and global these days. Was it like an internet connection? How did you know him?
I actually gave him a tour of Dylan
right.
Thomas's birthplace in 2008.
Ah, oh, well remembered, 8 years ago.
I didn't remember. It was when I was... I just knew I knew him, but I didn't know where I knew him from.
I see.
And
yeah.
it was only talking with him.
Oh, wow. That came up.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, brilliant.
It's great, isn't it?
That is.
And he is now selling this book.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes.
And obviously they were quite interested in the book when they were out there. And
very much so. The reception from it was great. But I think it was the Welsh accent that did it.
Yeah, when you were reading.
The performance from us all that did it.
Brilliant. So all four of you had a turn in reading.
Very much so. Very much so.
Oh,
and they got a great sense of humour, and they even understood the dry Welsh.
Did they?
Yeah.
Because the humour doesn't always translate, does it?
Not always.
But you found that most of it...
They were fine. They were all fine.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
Now, we will be hearing, if you don't mind, passages from some of the writers and the poets' work in the episodes to come.
Great.
So that'd be great if we could hear a bit of that
it's an absolute privilege to be part of a book with such great poets in it.
Yes,
you know, it really is. And the Americans want to come into the next book we publish.
And what is that? Are you?
It's going to be another anthology.
Uh-huh.
And it's going to be 5 American guest poets coming in.
Oh, wonderful.
Matching with 5 or 6, possibly, poets from here.
Right, okay.
So it's going to be probably 10 Swansea writers plus Americans or something.
Yeah, brilliant.
So that's...
Do they have similar writing styles, the poets in this book?
No.
Or are they just completely unique?
All varied.
Yeah.
And I don't want anybody to believe it's all like Shakespeare, because it ain't. Shakespeare was great. Dylan Thomas was greater. But neither of them are easy to understand.
Right.
And words and language have to be understood.
Right.
So
I suppose when you strip it back and you decipher, do you think the messages from Shakespeare and Dylan Thomas still speak to us as a universal message, as a timeless message, do you think?
I think so.
Yeah?
I believe so.
Uh-huh.
You know, if you really do strip it back to hear what they're saying, it's still going on. People haven't changed.
Right. No. Yeah, humanity doesn't really change.
No, no.
So, compared to the modern poets these days, do they make it easier to understand, or is it still an enigma you have to decode?
More and more, poetry is becoming clearer. No poet, I believe, should have to explain the poem before reading it.
Right, yeah.
You have to give sometimes a snippet of information to say where you were in your head, maybe, but not explain the poem.
Right,
because once it's written, it's for your eyes and your explanation, not for mine or the writers.
I mean, that information and explanation may not always be readily available.
No.
And when you've got a poem in front of you, you want to be able to understand it, I suppose.
That's right.
You?
And connect with it.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
So now on a personal note, I mean, obviously the itinerary was jam-packed, you know, to do with the book and to do with the work out there. But what was your favourite part of the trip? To do with your spare time?
Well, it wasn't going watching for whales.
All right, of the C variety now.
Yes, with an H. They actually were going to put on the poster Wales, the country, to Wales, the animal. And I said, no, don't do that, because I'm overweight, and that's what we would call an overweight person in Swansea.
You're not overweight.
So they didn't do that. So I went out looking for proper ones. But I only saw a fin or a tail sketting.
Oh,
the
really?
Water. But it was still funny. It was
Yeah.
just, everything was funny. They've got a freedom trail over there as well.
What's that?
Well, you know, their civil independence, the Civil War and all that.
Yeah.
It's all to do with that. And I learned a really good definition of a word.
What's
Do you
that?
want to hear?
Go on.
Don't tell anybody.
Okay, we won't tell anybody.
All right.
Nobody's watching.
Okay,
Nobody's watching.
okay. Hooker. You know what a hooker is?
Yes.
Oh, you do?
I think so.
Does your mother know you know?
Does your mother know?
Anyway, he was a general, you know. General Hooker, Joseph Hooker.
Okay.
And he was part of the Civil War.
Right.
And he was a bit of a ladies' man.
Right.
And so in Boston, they used to get the girls around the back of his quarters, no euphemism, and he used to do whatever men do with women.
Right.
And the women that were brought in were called hookers. So it was from General Hookers, General Joseph Hooker, that the name for a prostitute or a bit of a loose lady is hooker.
Well, thanks for the explanation. Unfortunately, we've run out of time.
Oh, damn!
But you can tell us more in the next edition. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.